Where's Sean? Supposed to be on. Sean hasn't been on forever. He's here today.
You don't even go here.
He's not even ready yet. I know. It's something about some excuse about picking up a kid from summer camp. Like just bogus stuff. No, it's good. Sean will be here today. Luds is on his way back to Wisconsin. He'll be back on the show Monday. And Sam and I are still here. And we've got a heck of a lineup today. Aaron Portzline, Jody Shelley, the who's who and Columbus Blue Jackets, whether it's writers, broadcasters. The other 31 continues today. Let's get it going on the DLLS Stars podcast.
Get it ready, boys.
Or whatever. Man, I am never going to live that down. This is the
Not even the Devil's Day.
This is the DLLS Stars podcast. It's Thursday, August 7th. They set me up yesterday because I did the David Putty, which you still don't even know.
Forgot to take it off.
The Devil's Sound, and yesterday, Kat was producing, Elijah's producing today, and she was trying to tell me that something was wrong technically, and just to not put off the scent of that. I'll see it for a while. Alongside Sam Nestler, I'm Owen Newkirk. As I mentioned, Elijah Smith. Some know him as Prophet. Some know him as Off-Screen Queso. I don't even know if that's going to stick, but it's nice to have Elijah here today. And we've got a heck of a show. Sean Shapiro will be with us here in just a couple of minutes. We could just vamp and get him on, but let's not keep our guests waiting. Today and the other 31, as we continue to go through the other 31 NHL teams, as we approach, and we get through this, and training camp's going to be right there. Today's Columbus Blue Jackets Day. We're going to have Jody Shelley, who's the TV color analyst, been there over a decade now on the Columbus Blue Jacket TV broadcast. And our first guest, leading things off, the guy when it comes to the writing beat of the Blue Jackets. Please welcome from The Athletic, Aaron Portzline. Aaron, how you doing today?
Good, gentlemen. How are you doing? Thanks for the introduction there.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. We're thrilled that you're here. I know you've gone through some stuff in the last little bit, so it's nice that you're here. But let's get right to, I've been obsessed over the last couple of weeks, and we've been talking about it before we started this summer series. Every time we did NHL News and Notes, it was Yegor Chinakov conversation, and you've been at the forefront of that, and your reporting has been excellent. But for those who either haven't been listening to our show, which shame on them, or haven't read your pieces, which is double shame, can you catch everybody up on this player versus coach versus trade request drama that's going on in Columbus right now?
Yeah. Well, first, let me say this. The person who broke the story was Yegor Chinakov's agent.
That's right.
Shumi Babayev, who tweeted it and then complained the next day that he really wished that this hadn't reached the media. I don't know what to do with that, but this is a strange one, guys, because like the Blue Jackets they're not void of talent as many people might suspect. I think a lot of people still quite don't understand the young high-end talent they've got up front. But there's a spot right there for Yegor Chinakov if he comes to camp and performs as well as he did last year. And this idea that Dean Evason, the coach of the Blue Jackets, is not going to give him playing time or is not going to give him a fair shake, and that's why he needs to be traded, is kind of ridiculous when you realize that he started last year with Sean Monahan and Kirill Marchenko, which is the Blue Jackets' top line. Now, when he was out for 3 months or so, came back, he was not a difference-making player, and the team was at a point in the season in March where they really needed everyone to be going in the lineup. And so, to me, I wasn't surprised that he was dropped in the lineup. I wasn't surprised that he ended up a healthy scratch because he just did not appear to be at his best. So where does it stand now? He has asked for a trade. the Blue Jackets GM Don Waddell has made it clear that he's willing to trade him, but he doesn't feel the urgency to just see what the best offer is out there and accept it. No, he has an idea of what he believes Chinakov is worth. And if he doesn't get an offer that matches that, he's not moving him. And so I've been told by Chinakov's agent that he will come to camp with the right attitude. He will practice. He will play. He'll try to compete for a spot. But they both feel, the agent, Shumi Babayev, and the player, Chinakov, that his best avenue for success is a trade. And I think there are a lot of people from the outside looking in, maybe viewing that thought process is a little bit skewed, because there is a really good opportunity here for Chinakov if he shows up to camp ready to go and healthy.
And Aaron, you just said get what he's worth. Oh, look at Sean's here.
Hey, look at that. Shapiro popped in.
What's up, Sean?
I was just going to say, Aaron, you mentioned what he's worth, getting what he's worth. What is he worth to you?
Well, I mean, I would think you'd need certainly a lineup player. I don't think you're going to get a bona fide top six player. I mean, Chinakov has that ability. Absolutely, he does. He's a really talented player, but he hasn't stayed healthy long enough to put himself in a position where teams trust that he's going to be there and be able to make that impact night in, night out. Just look at the games he's missed throughout his first 4 seasons. So I think it's probably a high ask for most teams looking in from the outside, given his injury history. You'd be trading for potential. I think you'd be accepting some risk in that respect. And that's why I think it's going to be probably very difficult to make that move. And I think he comes to camp, and we'll see where it goes from there. This one is a bizarre one for me, though. This is not quite as dramatic, but the Pierre-Luc Dubois one a few years ago was kind of a head scratcher too. But I don't get early signs that this is going to turn into that. But I didn't then either. So we shall see.
You know, it was interesting, Aaron, because when we were talking to John Walton from the Caps radio broadcast last week, he was the first guest of our summer series, The Other 31. We asked him about Dubois because obviously things didn't go well in Winnipeg. It really didn't go well in LA, and he had a great year for the Caps last year. And it was interesting to see how a guy who we started to maybe label as maybe it's a him problem, not a team or coach problem. And now you see this, and clearly, like, there's no brainer that Don Waddell isn't just going to immediately, expedite some trade just because Chinakov says he doesn't want to be there, because why give up on potential value? Why, that teams will lowball offers because you got to move him. He doesn't want to be there. That's not a good negotiating position. But I get the sense that, as you said, that Waddell is taking a longer term approach. And that leads me to that, it's been a full year now that Don Waddell has been the GM after the 11-year Jarmo Kekalainen era. And just curious how that transition's been over the last 12 plus months.
Well, I think whenever a new GM or a new coach, and the Blue Jackets had both last year, when they come in, there's just a new set of eyes on the same players. And a lot of the determinations that people think they have made when put before new eyes are seen in a different way. You saw Waddell really make his mark on this team on the ice last season, in the sense that guys that were injured a lot, guys that were in and out of the lineup, guys that were sort of fringe, not battle-tested players, those guys were all gone. He didn't qualify some, he bought out others. Like, there was a lot of lower lineup purging, if you will. Bean and Boakfist and Texier, all those guys who were sort of hung around for a few years, and you wondered when they were going to sort of grab it, moved on. And he's not a big fan of injured players. I thought he'd be more active this summer. I think he thought he would be more active this summer. But it's what I came into the league knowing. He's an old school guy who speaks pretty openly, pretty bluntly, in a time when a lot of GMs and athletes talk fluff and don't really try to say much or aren't willing to say much. He kind of goes there. So I find that refreshing. I think fans find that refreshing. And I think he's he's been pretty tough on some of these guys at contract time, tough but fair. And he's just, for instance, he signed Voronkov this year to an extension. This is a massive player, 6'5", 235. I think they'd rather him be 220. But that was part of it. He signed the contract, and it was made clear he's not going to play. He's not going to take the ice in training camp if he's not where he needs to be physically. So a firm hand, but a reasonable hand, and I think a lot of the veteran players in the room, especially, respond to that, or wanting that.
Aaron, good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too.
Question for you on when it comes to, you talked about Don's approach and everything like that, and then Dean comes in. Having talked to both of them before, I can see similar personalities in both. What's kind of your read on their dynamic? Because every coach and GM has a different relationship.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I don't want to bring everything back to this, but both of those guys were just kind of getting their groove last year when the Gaudreau tragedy hit. And I think that affected their relationship. It affected everybody's relationship. To me, what was really noticeable about the Evason hire, and you wouldn't expect to hear it from a group of, it's probably not fair. Many people wouldn't expect today's athletes to reach this conclusion. But when Don Waddell spoke to the veteran players in the room, there were players in the room that made it clear to him that they wanted a tougher hand as a coach. They wanted to be pushed. They wanted to be in a room where standards are set, and if they're not hit, there are consequences, where it's not just the lower lineup guys that are scratched when they have rough outings, but it's the top of the lineup guys too. Honestly, and this is where people drive off the road or spit their coffee out, there were guys in that room that missed John Tortorella and missed that approach. Not all of John Tortorella, not every day of John Tortorella, but missed that push from above, that demand, the top gear. And they felt like that was missing, and they wanted a tougher hand. And Dean Evason, I think that comes naturally to him. We'll see where it goes. Coaches in the NHL do not last forever, but he was the voice that they needed last year. Unbelievable handling of the tragedy. That's all over the room, but that's especially true with Waddell and Evason. Just incredible perspective, and the way that they handle that is one of the most impressive touches I've seen. And a ton of credit to the players too, but those guys really stepped up in a moment where, if you think about it, they really didn't know many guys in the room. They had very, very short relationships with most of the guys, and then they're thrust into this really difficult position. And I thought they handled that masterfully. But I think Don Waddell is absolutely delighted with having Evason at the coach.
Aaron, you just mentioned it with the Gaudreau tragedy. It was hard not to root for Columbus last year, right? Anybody around the NHL was hoping they'd sneak into that wild card spot, not just because of that, but because of what you just mentioned, how they came together, how the city rallied, all those things. What did you see? How close did that group become in the room? Because you mentioned it, not a lot of guys know each other. It's an unheard of tragedy. The team who wasn't even expected to be good before any of that happened. What did you see from those players in the room, and how close they became during the season?
Yeah, it was incredible. Like I think it's so easy in today's world. We all know this with the phones, with just the ability to sort of isolate yourself from the world, while at the time feeling like you're connected to the world, even though you really aren't connected to the world. I think it forced these players, many of them new, many of them who have settled into pockets within the team. This is my friend group. That's the other friend group. That's another one. It brought everybody together and required that they get to know each other and help each other in a time that, for many of those players at their age, there's 20-year-olds, 21, 22 in the room, quite possibly the first experience of overwhelming grief they've experienced in their lives. Boone Jenner is the captain, really elevated in that moment when the news of the tragedy struck. The word went out around North America and beyond that no matter what, this was late August, whenever you were planning to get here, early September, a couple days before camp, whatever, come to Columbus now. And the players overwhelmingly just boom, straight to Columbus, and they bonded. And it sounds a little, trite that hockey is what allowed them to do this on a human level is how they did it most of all. And hockey was just sort of an extension of that. But that's part of it. The other thing that needs to be mentioned is that Meredith Gaudreau at the funeral service, in her words, speaking of her late husband, mentioned to the team that this is what Johnny Gaudreau would have you do. Please emulate him. Please go to the rink, find joy, have a blast, get home, spend time with your family, play your asses off. And I think that really released them to continue to feel the grief, but also not move on, because you don't move on, but learn how to play within that grief and to find value in performing at a high level and really honoring him in the way that he would have wanted it to be. All of that was at play. And again, these are really, really young guys. Grief is tough on everybody, but when you're that age, it can really send you reeling. And they bonded as much as any team I've ever seen.
We have a lot more to get to, and I want to carry that over into what we think the Blue Jackets might be doing next year with Aaron Portzline on the DLLS Stars podcast.
Yeah, I feel bad having to read an ad break after that wonderful answer from Aaron there, but here we go. Empire Today. Just like your favorite team needs a home ice advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today is flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. We've all been to those big box stores. You wander endless aisles, then somehow you're hauling all these materials home, looking for an installer and coordinating everything yourself. Those big box stores might have a flooring department, but the person helping you with flooring might have been doing sinks yesterday, and they might be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. So Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they will be with you every step of the game. It's a whole different ballgame. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space. You see how it looks with your furniture and with your house. You want to have a space that fits you, right? So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. DLS listeners can receive a $350 discount when using the promo code DLLS. Yes, you heard right. A $350 discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DLLS for full details.
This feels weird. I'm going to talk about Rugged Road. This should be a Luds one, right? But let's talk about it. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions, whether you're on land or water. Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. One of the most unique features Luds loves is that Rugged Road coolers have the ability to always float upright. You never lose a drink. Unlike other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. So gear up with your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com. That's ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Use the code DLLS for 10% off. Just didn't feel right, did it?
No.
Yeah, it's got to be a Luddy read. Aaron, we have so much we can get into on the Blue Jackets. Let's talk about the Charlie Coyle and the Miles Wood trade, because as I was looking at a potential depth chart for Columbus, and you were talking about, where they bonded and where they almost got to in spite of the Gaudreau tragedy that before the first game happened last year. And that's a really tough situation for the players that didn't know each other that well, new head coach, new GM. And I think everybody was pretty surprised that they were even in a position to compete. And they won 6 in a row at the end and came 2 points short of Montreal. But I'm looking at their depth. Monahan, Fantilli, Coyle, Lundestrom as a potential spine. That looks pretty darn good for a team that was knocking on the door. And, I could rattle off a whole bunch of different stats, because the goals against number has improved noticeably each of the last few seasons after that really tough year in 22-23, and the goals for are going up. Is this all trending in the right direction for the Blue Jackets?
It is. I think you should put Sillinger in there in the center depth role call as well. He may not play center at the start, but this is a rare thing for Columbus, the Blue Jackets, to have center depth, because that has been a weak spot of the organization from day one. I think the goals for number last year was surprising for many people. They tied with Toronto, I think, for 7th overall in the league, which I don't think many people had, especially after Laine was traded. So there's obviously talent up front. Fantilli, they have 2 30-goal scorers last year. Marchenko, 24 years old. Fantilli, 20. Obviously, Werenski had a crazy year. So I think they feel pretty confident about their ability to score goals, especially if the power play, and this has been said for about 12 years in a row now in Columbus, if the power play could just be like average, they would get a boost there as well. I think there's concern on the back end, and there should be concern on the back end. What's changed from last year? The goaltending has one new face, Jet Greaves, who I think is going to have an opportunity to be the number one here if he grabs it and goes with it. Elvis Merzlikins, to my surprise, to others' surprise, is still here. I was half thinking there would be a buyout. I think possibly a trade, although we always knew that would be a difficult trade to swing. But until that gets dramatically better back then, I do think the goals against is going to struggle. One thing of note, they made some major changes last year to their top 4 in the early part of the season, which is never a good thing. It's typically not a good thing. That's usually a sign of distress, of desperation. They claimed Dante Fabro off waivers from Nashville, and he was a real find next to Werenski. It just clicked. It worked. And, people can say, well, anybody could play next to Werenski. How hard could it be? Not everybody can play next to Werenski. Not everybody can play against an offensive defenseman. Fabro really figured out quickly how best to make that work. The other call-up was Denton Matejchuk from junior ranks, and he stepped right in on the second pair. And so their top 4, when that top 4 was together, they were a really, really good team. If I'm remembering correctly, it was like 26, 13, and 2 when those 4 were in the lineup. The other 41, you don't want to see what it was. And I think they gave up more than a goal per game more when that top 4 was there. So maybe this defensive crew is better than we think. But that's still the side of the ice that concerns me about this team, because you've got Merzlikins, who's really struggled since his first couple of years in the league, gotten progressively, I guess, marginally better the last couple of years. Greaves is a really talented kid. The players in the room love playing for him. They say it after every game. It's almost to the point of wondering if they're trying to say something else by speaking so flatteringly about Greaves. But he's not proven yet at the NHL level. So if you're looking for a soft spot and a big question mark for this team, I think it would be from the red line back.
As much, Aaron, as I'd love to go deeper into the Jet Greaves storyline, because I think he's a really fun goalie to watch, with your time, I want to talk about a guy. You talked about Blue Jackets and center depth, and we obviously talked about this season, but going forward, guy who was there for, I believe, development camp in Caden Lindstrom, and going to be playing at Michigan State this year. What's kind of the feeling for them right now for his timetable? Obviously, the back injury coming off of last year. What's kind of the thought process for both long-term and short-term for Lindstrom when it comes to being part of that center depth in Columbus?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think they feel a lot better right now than they did a year ago. They certainly feel a lot better now than they did early last season, when he just wasn't getting better and ended up having back surgery. That's always a concern, no matter your age. I think it's a real concern for a guy that went 4th overall and is still not 20 years old. That is a red flag for many. He's come through the surgery very well. The team was incredibly patient. And to the surprise of many, he was able to return for the Western Hockey League Championship Series last season, and played really, really well. Would take the second game of a back-to-back off, played in the Memorial Cup with Medicine Hat. That calmed a lot of nerves going into the off season, and people feel a lot better now having seen him play and skate in development camp. The idea of him going to college is a delight to the Blue Jackets. The players seems excited about it, but they love the idea of him playing a lower number of games. He may take some back-to-back games off there as well. They love him being surrounded by a sports science group and having a really good facility there, better than what most junior programs have by far. Just a really good transition year before he turns pro. I think the understanding is he's 1 year in college and then probably turn pro. And what happens after that, I think is a real question. Does he go to Cleveland, their minor league team, their AHL team? Does he come right to Columbus? Again, with the center depth in Columbus, this has been a desperate hole in the roster for most of their 25 years. And now there seems to be an abundance of not just players in Columbus that can play the position, but players on the way that can make a difference. And Lindstrom is certainly one of those.
Is there any like you mentioned him going to Michigan State this year, and that's obviously a Friday, Saturday schedule, and you mentioned potentially not playing back-to-back. We don't hear about 20-year-olds not playing, 19-year-olds playing the second game of back-to-back. Is there concerns of long-term for him, there's going to have to be this approach, or is it just one of those things where this is early and we'll be after this after we move past the surgery a little bit further?
Yeah, I think, and this would probably, I'm not sure they would say this if it were the case, but my understanding is that this is just being done out of an abundance of caution. Just allow the ramp up to be very slow. He could have played technically late April, and they were like, no way. There's just, what is the bonus of this? But he was feeling really good. He went to skate with his Western team, really wanted to play, and passed all of the tests with flying colors. So then they felt better about him getting some sort of taste that season. But the hope is that once he ramps up and they do it properly, that he should be good to go. But I do think there will be people always sort of worried about the back. Yeah.
Aaron, as much as I want to ask you a million other questions, we only have a couple minutes, and we have to ask you something we asked every guest so far on this series, which is from the outside perspective, in this case, Columbus, what is your take on the Dallas Stars heading into 2025-26?
Well, that's a good one. I think it's a hell of a hockey team. I love the speed they play with. I think they're going to miss Misha Donskov, a great Columbus guy. I've got to throw his name out there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the talent there is unmistakable. I think the West is really tough and fairly wide open. Can they get through? I mean, it's tough, eh? I'm not sure how they get up and over the hump, but I think they're a team that's right there on the hump again. Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm always impressed with them the last few years, just thinking that when's the real breakthrough going to be, though? And to me, they're one of those teams that it's right there, and you hang around with it long enough, and it can happen. That's how I see that team on paper, on ice. I think they're about as talented as just about anybody. But when does it go next level? And I don't understand the Robertson stuff at all.
Same.
Why would you even consider moving? Those are the guys you tank for, not trade. I just, that one doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But
to me, it would be the same as you guys considering getting rid of Fantilli or Marchenko at that point. You're going, no, these are the guys we build around.
Right. And there's a group that always wants to rebuild.
Yeah.
Just start over, right?
Yeah.
And then complains.
And then complain when they're not in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Well, Aaron, I wish we had more
time
time because I've got a billion more questions for you. It's just wonderful to have you on. You're such a wealth of Blue Jackets knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's do it again because it's great. Love having you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Thanks, Aaron.
Aaron Portzline from The Athletic. Great coverage of the Blue Jackets. If you don't read his stuff, you are missing out. Up next, boy, we got another fun one. Jody Shelley from the Blue Jackets TV broadcast will be joining us right here on DLLS.
All right. You've heard it a million times, but I'm going to tell you one more time, and probably more than just one more time. We, as in the DLLS Cowboys crew, is headed to Las Vegas this fall. We're headed to Las Vegas with true fan travel for the ultimate fan experience. DLS is taking over the Strip for an unforgettable weekend in Vegas, and you, yes, you, I don't know which camera's on, this one, middle, you need to be there. Join us as the Cowboys take on the Las Vegas Raiders on November 17th. I continued it into a New Jersey accent.
You did.
But November 17th, Monday Night Football, this all-inclusive trip includes a 3-night stay at a luxury Vegas resort, game tickets, VIP parties, exclusive events with the very famously funny and ridiculous DLLS Cowboys crew headed by the man Clarence, who you just follow him around, and I promise you will have a great time alone. You don't even have to go to the game. Got plenty of fellow diehard fans and much, much more. This is how Dallas does Vegas, so book now at truefantravel.com. We also have some pretty awesome merchandise available on our store right now. We have the new Dallas collection, which I was wearing yesterday, that top left one, the DLLS barbecue. Love that shirt.
It's a good-looking shirt.
Love that shirt, especially with the little the logo just up in the top chest part. I love that. We have the Dallas versus all y'all Ludge shirt, the Nolan Ryan shirt that Owen was rocking the other day. We got to name that mascot shirt because I keep talking about it as the horrifying nightmare.
You don't
shirt.
want to call it the amalgamation shirt?
I don't know. That's too long of a word for me, but plenty of shirts. We also have all the playoff shirts from last year for the Stars, the Otter shirt, the Finnish Mafia, Wyatt 16-bit, and the Miko finisher, as well as the Captain and the Moose. So plenty of stuff available at alldls.com and DLS free newsletter. Pretty amazing
That's
deal.
Great. Yeah.
5 days
every
a week,
morning
I believe.
in your email.
It's a good time to catch up on everything DLLS. So go alldls.com for all of that.
Every time you do the Raiders thing, you get Ardell fired up about it because he's a big Raiders
That's
guy.
the only reason I do it.
Yeah. We're waiting on Jody Shelley. He should be he actually connected an hour early at 1:30 Central Time.
Attaboy.
So he was fired up. So when we have Jody on, we'll bring him right on. Since we have Sean here for a second, Sean, we were talking about the Blue Jackets, and it's amazing how not only how well they did considering the horrific tragedy that happened before the season and could have completely derailed a new GM, new head coach, as Aaron was talking about, partially new team. And I'm just sitting looking at the standings from the end of last year because they got hot at the end, but then still 2 points behind Montreal. I think if they continue this upward trend, the Blue Jackets are a playoff team, but I'm trying to figure out who's coming off.
That's the great question in the East, right? Yeah. Where it's you go through and there's so many teams. Like, John's not here anymore for us to talk about it, but are the Bruins gonna bounce back? Right? Like,
no, I don't think they are.
No, yeah, but there's so many teams. Like, I remember I was at and we'll have some people much better experts on Columbus in a second, but I've been being based in Detroit. When Columbus beat Detroit in that outdoor game, that was one of those like moments where it's like, okay, this felt like a playoff game.
Yeah.
Both those teams missed. So it's another team's it's every year one team falls out, Owen, right? It feels like there's always at least one team unexpectedly that falls out. And I mean, for Dallas Stars history, right, it's after they have the best record in the West in 16-17, they come out and happen. So there's going to be one spot that opens up like that. But there's also 4 or 5 teams that are just ready to take it. And so I think this is a great segue to bring our guest on, right?
Yeah, we believe we have him now. So, no, Elijah's shaking his head. He's going in and out for a second. I think he may be having a connection issue because Sean literally wrapped up his comment thinking we had him, and we're almost there. So we'll get him.
Not fair. Not fair.
I don't think I'm sitting there going like, I don't know if Montreal's going to drop back. Yeah. They seem like they're growing. I'm looking at New Jersey. Mike Montreal yesterday was like, they've got to take a step.
Yep.
The Leafs, they lose Marner, but they fancy themselves a division contender. They won it. The Lightning, I don't think Hurricanes, I mean, maybe the Capitals take a step back, but that would be interesting.
But what's a step back for the Capitals too, right? You say step back, like
well, a step back from 111 points might still be 100 points, right? Yeah,
exactly. And are you look at the Rangers and the Islanders, like you talk about other teams that you're all competing with, right? Now I have very little faith in the Pittsburgh Penguins plan at all, but is there something to Sidney Crosby dragging a team into the playoffs for the last time in his career or something like that?
You know how the last few years, Sean, there's been these sort of like 8 teams that make the playoffs and then a huge gap to the also rans. This time it feels like there's going to be a really sort of nasty peloton of teams trying to either in or out of that wild card spot.
There's so many right there, and like it's not other than really Pittsburgh. And it's funny because like I mentioned the whole Crosby thing, but like other than Pittsburgh, you look at the East and you're like, oh, I can at least see a case for all of these teams to drag their way into the wild card fight, right? And it's it's going to be tough too for can Montreal hold that spot, right? Like, and it's also going to be on. There's also going to be a level of like I look at the 6 teams that were in through the divisional setup, the outside the wild cards, and I just have a hard time. Like, okay, I don't see how Toronto, Tampa, or Florida. I don't see how any of those 3 are not a playoff team, right? In the Metro. Have a hard time seeing how Washington, Carolina aren't, and then New Jersey to me is I think they're gonna be. I think they're
healthy. They're going to be better than they were last year if they're healthy.
And so it feels like there's almost a cut line there for your 3 kind of divisional teams on each side, and it just makes it even more pressing on this what this wild card race can be because there's also a lot of these. You go and try to poke holes in these teams that are in that wild card area. Anytime you try to find a big flaw in one of those, they all seem to have like Aaron talked about the goals against for Columbus, right? It might not be goals against, but there's equivalent flaw for all of these teams where it's just a huge question mark, and it's going to be. It's what makes the East really interesting to me because there's a lot of potential answers it's not potential answers. There's a lot of bigger questions. Like, for example, right? Like with the Islanders, it's going to be Matthew Schaefer's the number 1 pick. It's going to be exciting to watch him kind of step into the league. Being a number 1, being a 18-year-old defenseman is not that Celebrini and Bedard had it quote unquote easy, but he's going to a better team than those 2 were. Obviously, the Islanders weren't nearly as bad as San Jose.
Sean, I don't see them making a 10 to 15 point improvement in the standings.
No,
if anything, Mike Sullivan going to the Rangers could have a bigger bounce back for them. But yeah, I think it's going to be brutal. Do you see? I thought it was interesting, Sam, that Aaron was talking about. It sounds like they're not sold on Merzlikins being the number 1 anymore, and that, I mean, maybe Jet Greaves, the unproven goalie, steps into that role. But I mean, if you're a Stars fan and you're thinking about, issues the Stars have, who your number 1 goalie is not one of them.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was just thinking, like, to me, Columbus. If you're to ask me what you're going to see from them this year, I would say, well, the big question is, can they be anywhere near as good without Werenski wearing a cape and being a Norris level guy, without Fantilli scoring 31 goals, without these guys who just took a massive, massive step? Or are those guys just going to be that? I mean, I'd love to see just Werenski just be that guy. But I'm looking at Jet Greaves. I mean, if he's anywhere near, or if Merzlikins is anywhere near these numbers of 1.91 and 938, that's a tough team to beat.
Let's ask our guest, because I've been told that we have Jody. So let's bring him on. There he is, Jody Shelley from the Blue Jackets TV crew, fighting the connection a little bit there, Jody, I can see. How's it going?
How's it going? Yeah, I'm just at the tennis court here. They just turned the sprinklers on, so not ideal, but that's how it's going.
Well, it's like 102 here, so I'm sure it feels better there than...
Is it?
Yeah. Hey, we're talking about goalies right now, and Portzline was just on our last couple segments.
Yeah.
Not really flowing with praise for Elvis Merzlikins, and thinking about the possibility that there's an opportunity for Jet Greaves to grab things, albeit unproven. Is there a legitimate question about goaltending for Columbus going into the season?
Yeah, I think anytime you have a team that hasn't had the success they're looking for, you look at the roster and where are the holes, and then you compare them to other teams that have success. Yeah, it's something that's up for grabs here. And I think Elvis is well aware of that. The way Jet Greaves came in last year towards the end of the year, went on a 5-game winning streak. Everyone talks about him being an undersized goalie. I mean, there's a way to manage that when you have a 1 and a 1B or a 1 and a 2. And I think that it is Jet's opportunity, the way he finished last year, to come in and take that. And I think that's a dialogue that's going to bother Elvis Merzlikins, who wants to be the number one. He's been vocal about that in the past. And maybe that pushes him to a level of buying into some things with the team and being a part of what he has to be a part of here, where it's not about one person, it's about everyone. And I think that that's something that this team has and can have with a little more competition.
Hey, Jody, when it comes to Greaves' performance last season, it's one of the things that we're not supposed to say about the sport, but it's true, right? Like when you have the backup or the young kid, all of a sudden you're a little bit better about hitting your mark defensively. You're a little bit better about making sure that you're making his life a little bit easier. When you look at kind of how Jets' 11 games in the NHL went last year and how the team played in front of them, obviously that's something. How much of it was the kid doing really well? How much of it was the team also buckling down a little bit more, knowing, hey, we got a young guy back there?
You have to credit Jet Greaves. He made some spectacular saves. He was in the moment. He gave the team confidence, and you could see that. Like, first of all, they love this guy. I know that everyone loves their teammates, but there is something very special about Jet Greaves in that locker room, and I think there's a little bit of that. I've been in locker rooms where a young guy comes in and maybe the last time he was in the locker room, things didn't go so well. But then you see a spark, you understand his work ethic, you know he's had success, you see a change in his confidence. There's a little bit of that, but I would give the majority to the way Jet played. I think he gave the team confidence in how he controlled himself, controlled the puck, kept things calm. It was very impressive to watch him come in you watch young guys and everyone talks about young players and draft picks and potential. But when you can see it, we're in an organization here, and you guys are too, where you see guys come in and have an impact, or you see them take a longer route. But when they finally get there, you see that they got it. You know what I mean? And I kind of felt like Jet, when he walked in the room at the end of the last season last year, he was comfortable in his ability. He knew where he fit in. He knows his teammates, and he really wanted to take advantage of an opportunity.
Jody, I'm going to get right to something that you know a lot about, and that's fighting and physicality. So the other day we're talking about Ryan Reeves and if he still has a role in the NHL.
That's right, on our Sharks Day.
Yeah, we start looking at some fight clips and things, and all of a sudden I start seeing that Matthew Olivier is in a lot of these clips. And watching the way he fights. I mean, the way he fought Reeves, that fight was incredible. But then watching the way he just picked apart Matt Rempe from the Rangers, then I look and I see the guy had 18 goals. So my first question is he just the perfect player? And two, what do you see from him? He just seems like he has one of the better tactics and techniques of a fighter in the NHL.
He does. Yeah, he's very smart. With the Rempe fight, and now we used to watch hockeyfights.com on the dial-up internet to try to get any kind of edge for players. And now
Oh, we're in the good spot.
Oh, no.
It went completely frozen. Oh, I was so excited for that answer, too.
Oh, man. We'll get it again.
We'll have to ask him again. Yeah, because it'll pop back on.
We can hit an ad before.
impressive.
Well, let's hit the ad.
He's a player that's got a really good
it is.
opportunity under Dean Evason. Dean Evason and Scott Ford know Matthew Olivier from the minors in the Nashville system. They gave him an opportunity to penalty kill. They gave him an opportunity to get some more ice time. He saw some power play time. He became reliable. So he earned his ice time. He earned the 18 goals. But he's smart in this league, in this day and age, to play that role the way he does. He's established himself as one of the top fighters, if not the best fighter in the National Hockey League. He understands his size, his opponent, and his role to a T. And I think he brings the intimidation factor every night verbally. And I think that's a huge thing. When you see a guy across the bench and he doesn't want to look you in the eye, I got him. And that's where you kind of build confidence as a tough guy to you broaden your shoulders. Adam Fantilli, Kent Johnson, they feel a little broader when Mathieu Olivier is intimidating the opposition. It's a real key ingredient, and it's a valuable one for him, and he understands it, which has been great for the Blue Jackets.
Do you know, does he take any sort of boxing lessons or anything like that? Because it seems like
I think he
he's
does.
not just throwing wild punches there. He's throwing
his technique
combinations
looks
and
really
timing
sharp.
and everything.
No, he's blocking punches.
Yeah.
He's ducking. He's straight. His punches are in straight lines. I think he does take some off-season boxing. I know some guys take mixed martial arts, but he's a player. I'm just trying to remember. I think he has taken boxing lessons.
Well, we have a lot more with Jody here. We have to do a quick ad break, so don't go anywhere here on DLLS. Speaking of which, we are doing our Die Hard sale around the Cowboys training camp. Maybe if you're in Ohio, you're talking about the Browns or you're talking about the Bengals or something like that, but we're in Dallas, so it's Cowboys. Training camp offer $36 to be a Die Hard here on DLS. That's more than 50% off the normal annual rate of being a diehard, and it gives you great stuff. Sean just posted an article about his, he was talking about Casey DeSmith, his sort of pitch for the number of games he has to play, especially with the busy season and the Olympic break. Sam's been churning him out. He's been doing some, I don't want to spoil anything, but he's talked to a couple of Stars roster players over the last couple of days, so things are in the works on that. You want to be able to read all those articles. You have to be a diehard to do so, but you get everything. You get not just Stars, but you get Cowboys coverage with Clarence, who's in Oxnard right now with the Cowboys training camp, where you get Jeff Wilson for the Rangers, they just took 2 of 3 for the Yankees. They lost yesterday's getaway day, but won the first 2, and it was pretty fun to watch actually 3 really good close games as they try to make that wild card spot. And of course, the Mavericks, who are still reeling about the whole Luka stuff and looking at fit Luka men's health now and all that stuff. We have you covered for everything DFW sports. And as Sam was talking about earlier, the merchandise. If you sign up to be a diehard, your first annual year, you get a free t-shirt of your choosing. Anything there. It could be of the Dallas collection. I have the Nolan Ryan giving it, speaking of fighting technique, to Robin Ventura, who did not know what he was getting into. Or Luds has the Dallas versus All Y'all shirt. He was wearing that on the show. Of course, the Big Tex, as Sam doesn't like to call it, the mascot amalgamation, the barbecue one, and then of course any of the other ones. This is one of the classic DLLS ones. It comes without the "It's hot in the podcast studio" sweat marks.
Just a shirt.
Yeah, just a shirt. All those things. So go to DLLS.com/intro. You can get that and much, much more. Sign up today. All right, let's bring Jody back in. Jody, we were talking with Portzline about a lot of interesting things, and he did a lot on the Chinakov drama, which was fascinating. But I want to sort of step back and talk about the organization, because the team hasn't made the playoffs since the Toronto bubble and had a phenomenal year in there once, but has only hit 100 points once in existence, and that was in 2019. That was in 2016-17. 2019 was the only time you got into the second round. That was with Matt Duchene, by the way, when they stunned the Lightning. But I was looking at these numbers, goals against, goals for, combine them goal differential. In the last couple of years, huge improvements from the minus 116 the 2 years ago, minus 63 to plus 5 last year. And I asked Portzline this, so I want to ask you the same. It feels like everything is trending positively for Columbus. Don Waddell, Evason, I know obviously with the Gaudreau tragedy, that was a huge thing for everybody, but and we were debating this right before you came on. It looks like Columbus could be a playoff team this year. I'm not sure who would be replaced, who pushes out. I think it's going to be a bloodbath for that wild card spot in the East, but do you feel like Columbus is going the right direction?
I do. I mean, we were all surprised that last year, the tragedy to start the season, the way the team came together, there was hard to describe the bond those guys had and how they were playing for Johnny, and how Meredith was vocal about Meredith is Johnny's wife and saying, go play for Johnny. He would want you to do that. And these guys grabbed that. And it was a real special season to watch a team come together so quickly and really battle for each other. And then you hope they build off of that this year. They've lost some key pieces in my mind. Jack Johnson's a good veteran player, won a Stanley Cup. He didn't play a lot, but there's a old school, waste no time to get ready, no nonsense. This guy just puts his equipment on and plays hockey the same way. And then James Van Riemsdyk, intelligent, could read the game like Kent Johnson and Adam Fantilli. Good sounding boards in that locker room. It's up to guys to grow, but also veterans to take a step. And a guy like Zach Werenski, who's been here since 2015, he's kind of sick of it. He knows that this team can be better. He's been to the second round. He's been a guy that's dealt with a lot of injuries. I think they're trending up. The urgency, I mean, I say urgency a lot, but it's crazy what it's gonna look like in with the Atlantic. The Metropolitan, you say, is up for grabs, but I feel like just because there's no one that's dominant, you put everyone on pretty much on the same level, except Carolina, maybe. They have the most to prove as far as getting back to the playoffs and taking a deep run. They've made some changes again. Okay, the Rangers have dipped. They've got Igor. The Devils are going to be better. The Islanders, who knows? Philadelphia, they're going to steal some points for some teams. So it's going to be a grind, but I feel like this team has enough skin on them, and they're sick enough. They're ready to take that step. And to me, it's the goaltending and the health of the Stars. And then remember, they were 2 points out last year. They were one win away from making the playoffs. And you watch Montreal go in, and you're sitting here in your Columbus, and you're thinking, wow, Montreal was one of those teams that you kind of looked at it with Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal, and that group of what are they? I think the Blue Jackets' advantage is they know what they are. Dean Evason has put his stamp on this team, and it's the non-negotiables are in place, and they bought into it quick. And I think it's easy muscle memory for this team and how they have to play.
Jody, to follow that up, that's this season, but big picture, you played for the organization in early 2000s. You've spent more than a decade now as a broadcaster. It's one of the teams where, just not to be blunt, but based off the on ice success, the hockey community they've built is really impressive, right? And it's one of those where once this team does have that success, it's going to be a great reward for all of that too. In your kind of first person view as a player and now working in the broadcast side, what allowed Columbus to turn into this hockey town since you kind of were first introduced it, I think, in 2000 or 2001 yourself?
Yeah, 25 years ago. This is the 25th anniversary of the organization. And it's a real sports city. This town is passionate about their teams. And, the outdoor game this year, there was 90,000 fans for the Detroit Red Wings at the Horseshoe. A lot of first-time fans. But listen, there's a professional soccer league, a professional AAA baseball league. There is the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Factory, and then the Columbus Blue Jackets. Not in that order, but this Blue Jackets team is a part of a really tremendous sports community, and they expect winning, excellence. One loss with the Ohio State is a failed season, except with the playoffs now. It's not, but okay, you get my drift. It's a dark, dark week when they lose. And for the Blue Jackets, the fans here now, they identify with the way this team plays. There's always been a brand of hockey that has to be played, kind of this town, which is a white-collar town with a blue-collar mentality. And they love their teams, and they're passionate. And when they win, they're all it's just there's a buzz that goes through every corner of this city. It's I can't say enough about it as a sports town, and as a player, and now as an alumni in this city. They love their athletes, and we are did so well, and we all appreciate being a part of this community. What's allowed it to be this? I think the roots of being a good sports town in between two big sports cities with NFL. You have NBA up north in Cleveland. We're an hour and a half north of Cincinnati. We're 2 hours south of Cleveland. So I think this is where, and hockey has grown because the NHL has come to town. There was minor league hockey here, but this NHL and the Blue Jackets organization has just done tireless work to get out in the community, and it's amazing. Like everywhere, women's hockey now is growing. It's huge here now. So yeah, it's only getting bigger, and the Blue Jackets, like you said earlier, them trending in the right direction helps.
Jody, you just mentioned it. I want to ask you about that outdoor game. I was just looking at the numbers. That game at the Shoe, 94,751, which is second biggest NHL game of all time, actually knocked the Stars Winter Classic down a notch to third. But funny enough, it is behind the Red Wings Maple Leafs game at the Big House. So on a joking side, how does Ohio handle the fact that they are second to Michigan, especially in a year in which Michigan beat them on the football field? And then on the more serious side, just take us into the atmosphere there and all that went into that game.
You guys have seen NHL events, and when they come to town, they come big. And I have been a part of a lot of events, and sometimes it's the weather, sometimes it's the logistics, whatever. There's something maybe that a little glitch somewhere. This was perfect. This was a spectacular night. All right, it was a little cold. It was a little too cold to sit there in the Shoe, but the game made it worthwhile. I actually sat in the stands for a bit with the alumni. Just took the whole atmosphere in, but then went up to a nice warm suite, had some food, and watched them from there. And it was all encompassing. And to be second to Michigan, that's okay. That Big House is a little bigger. I'm glad they did their part and filled it up there. That's going to be a tough one to beat. But for us here to pack the Shoe like that, and as that date gets closer, you start thinking, well, there's extra tickets. Maybe people are waiting on weather. What are people waiting on? And then all of a sudden it went bonkers. And people are still talking about it here. So I can't say enough about it. And it took 24 years for the Blue Jackets to get an outdoor game.
Way too long.
I would say it was worth the wait. Yeah, they did it right, and they won the game against Detroit, and that was a big game in the standings. A really big game. It was a home and home, and the Blue Jackets won both, and that really kept that race interesting right to the end.
Funny enough, I was looking at the stats. The Michigan State College game at the Big House was actually the largest attendance of any hockey game.
113,000. Yeah, isn't that nuts?
That's pretty cool. They like their college hockey there.
We had a great experience in January of 2020 before the whole COVID shutdown because we had the Winter Classic of the Cotton Bowl. It was 85,000. The Stars came from behind. Radulov had that big one-timer. Like you said, Jody, the weather for us, the weather was perfect. It was like in the 50s. It was overcast, so the sun didn't mess with the ice. It was the perfect event. And even if the Winter Classic TV ratings aren't what they used to be, from a on location, it's like the perfect hockey event.
It's unreal. It really is. I think all their events are done so well. The All-Star game was here, I want to say back in 2015. These events that they put on, the draft when it was when you could go to Vegas and watch or go to the cities. It's just like, everybody's there, everybody's friendly. They bring out the stars, and it's just a real good feeling to it. I just want to add, you guys do a great job with your podcast. When I do national TV, I always try to get into the local market and listen to a local podcast, and I got hooked on yours, and you guys do a great job. A lot of information, good insight. Luds has his flavor on it, which is awesome as a former player. You guys have a good mix here. So thanks for having me on.
We were bummed that Luds wasn't here for this because we know he'd love to hear you two go at it. We're almost out of time, which is a shame. And keep throwing the praise at us. We don't get tired of it for sure. Thank you for that. But one of the bits we've done here, Jody, since we started doing this tour around the league to kind of eat into these dog days is we'd love to get your take or your impression of the Dallas Stars, where they're at right now, what you think of them, good or bad, and where you think they are going into this coming season.
I like them a lot. I mean, you have all the ingredients of a winning team. And last year surprised me. Of course, Hastenin being hurt. We had a couple D hurt. You have Big D. You have a great goaltender. You have a number one. You have superstars, and you have a good mix of character and your leader in Ben. So I like where they're at. I think that adversity is very important in championship teams. I think that expectations are on the Dallas Stars every year. They're in the conversation. I think with that leadership there, they don't want to hear it. I think they want to do it on the ice. Now with some changes in personnel behind the bench, not saying that was the problem, but sometimes there's a spark there that brings a new, fresh kind of air about it. And you know what? You kind of get on your path. So they have something to prove. I love their team. They've done a great job, and they're in it to win it. And it's from a team that's still working on prospects and looking up. It's one of the greatest. I think it's one of the best teams in the National Hockey League coming into this season.
Okay, one last thing for you. Then I'm pushing the time slot, but we have to. I've asked a few of these questions, so I know you'll get a great one. If you look at the Stars roster right now and you could forget salary cap, however, you could pluck one player off the Stars roster and insert him onto the Blue Jackets, who would you take and why?
Jake Ottinger.
Yeah,
I knew it. That good of a goalie. Come on. Starts with the goaltending, and then I think in playoffs it's coaching too. So, yeah, I would take Ottinger. You got to build from the goaltender out.
See, some of the other teams we've talked to so far, Jason Robertson Miro, Mikko Rantanen. I knew you were going goaltending after we talked about Merzlikins and Greaves.
Jody, do like Mikko Rantanen, but
yeah.
I would go with Ottinger.
Jody, what a pleasure to have you. I'm sorry we don't have more time. It's great. I'm looking at the schedule. October 21st, early in the season. You guys will be in Dallas. Love to get you on again. It would be fun to see you. I'm over at the AAC, but can't thank you enough. It's such a pleasure to have you hop on the show today.
Thanks, Jody.
My pleasure, guys. Keep up the great work. I'll come on anytime. Thank you. Have a great day.
There he goes. Jody Shelley, the TV color analyst for the Blue Jackets. And Sean, we have to sign off for today, but if you would indulge us with the guest lineup, Allison Lucan and Everett Fitzhugh from the Kraken tomorrow, and why that's going to be awesome too.
Yeah, well, Allison does incredible work. She's one of the best analysts in the league, does an awesome job. And actually, it's kind of fitting that we're going Columbus to Seattle because Allison spent a long time working in Columbus before going to Seattle. So this works really well. Clearly great production effort by us all the way around.
I mean, pat ourselves on the back, right?
And then for me, super exciting to have Everett on the show tomorrow because this is a fun full circle type moment for me. Everett was the analyst for the Bowling Green hockey team. I was covering the team for the student newspaper in, this would have been in 07, 08, I think it would have been around then.
God, I was already in the AHL by then.
Yeah, and there was, and we will talk more about it tomorrow, but there was a couple times where Everett and I would, because the student newspaper at Bowling Green is the flagship radio station, but they only had a seat on the bus for the play-by-play guy. So the analyst had to find a way to get to the game themselves. And as the student newspaper person, I would be driving to the games in my old 92 Buick LeSabre. And so Everett and I would occasionally shoot across the CCHA. We would drive, I remember one time we drove to Kalamazoo. I got pulled over on the way back from Kalamazoo. And so for me, really fun full circle moment to have Everett on the show tomorrow after him and I covered college hockey together about 15, 16 years ago, however long it is now. So
I guarantee you it'll be fun between what Sean and Everett knows their background. I've known them for a few years now, and the mascot conversation we're going to have with Allison. Oh, just
Mason Marshman. We got a real big player.
Just wait, because the Kraken may not have the brightest outlook for their coming season. We still have a lot of fun talking points. So 1 o'clock Central Time tomorrow, we will do Seattle Kraken on the other 31 with Allison Lucan and Everett Fitzhugh. Huge thank you to Jody Shelley and Aaron Portzline today. They were fantastic. Jody's such an awesome dude as well. But both of them, Aaron's such a wealth of knowledge. Sean Shapiro, we almost forgot he was on the show, so it's nice to have him back. Sam, Elijah, tomorrow's 1 o'clock, not 2. So 1 Central Time right here. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow here on DLLS.
We all silly like the mayor.